Well, it's official. I've been stuck in the house so long, I've completely run out of Pressed Penny videos to make. So now it's time to try something new. Welcome to David's Coin Travels. It's so nice to see you all, and I hope everyone is staying safe. In a previous video earlier this year, I had posted a comment stating that I was thinking about maybe trying to do a traditional vlog style video. And I was completely surprised by the feedback I got, which was actually all positive, and a lot of you seemed very interested in me trying out that type of a format. My initial plan was to try it out in one of our new release videos, just because they tend to be shorter. I wouldn't have to be filling a lot of time, since, to be honest, I'm not a big talker. At least not at this point. It's hard for me to kind of just fill time and ramble on. So I figured that was an easy way for me to kind of ease into this style of video. When I initially started this channel, I really just wanted it to be about the Pressed Pennies themselves and the theme parks that I find them at, or the roadside attractions. But I didn't want it to be about me. But here we are about 3 years after I've started the channel, and I finally decided to step in front of the camera. This is my first foray into vlogging, so I'm gonna ask for your help. Feel free to leave some comments below, either just saying hi, letting me know what you like, what you don't like, or hopefully just sending me some encouragement that you feel I'm going in the right direction. These first few videos might be a little rough around the edges until I get into the swing of things, but it's a learning experience, and hopefully you'll help me along the way. I'm open to any sort of comments to help make this flourish, and I'm hoping that you guys enjoy these videos. Now, with all that out of the way, it's time to get episode 1 of the vlog started. I had a whole bunch of different ideas, and there are videos that might be coming down the line for what this could be about, but I thought for being the first episode, maybe I would just give some history about myself and how I got into collecting pressed pennies. I'm originally from Ottawa, Canada, where I lived with my parents and my younger sister until my junior year of high school. At the end of that school year, we moved down to New Jersey. This was due to my father taking a new position within his company, and he was transferred down to New York City. Not only was I starting a new high school, but I was starting a new high school in a new state, in a new country, but also starting my senior year of high school. So all new friends, all new things were going on. So that entire year was just a blur. Then skip forward a few years, I had finished high school, I had worked some part-time jobs at a CVS pharmacy and at Best Buy selling electronics, and then eventually I found my current job that I actually work at. It's an office job. I had met my wife there. We got married a few years later, and as I mentioned, we actually have 2 daughters, Hannah and Melody. You may see them pop up in some of the other videos every so often. There's been a few times I've been filming a machine and one of them will kind of stick their head in, so you might see them every so often. So by this time we'd been in New Jersey for about 20 years. My parents were getting ready to retire, and every year they would go down to Florida for their annual Major League Baseball spring training trip. This had been something they had started doing a few years before. They really loved it. They're big New York Mets fans. And on this most recent trip, they actually decided to go house hunting. So they came back after the trip and they informed my sister and I that they had bought a house, or were going to have a house built, and they were going to be moving down there, and that was kind of their retirement plan. After hearing the news, I had gone back, I had talked to my wife, and we kind of were interested in maybe doing the same thing. We enjoyed New Jersey. My wife had been born and raised in New Jersey. That was kind of all she knew. But New Jersey is a very expensive place to live. And it would be nice to, go somewhere that maybe was a little bit less expensive for us to live. So a few weeks after we had been told by my parents that they were going to move down to Florida, my wife and I flew down. We checked out a couple neighborhoods. We checked some existing houses. We checked out schools. But we ended up picking the same new development my parents had picked. Our one concern obviously was our job. Was our job going to allow us to work remotely, or were we going to have to look for new jobs? Thankfully, they were fantastic, and they said, absolutely, we can work something out where you'll work remotely. And it's worked out great. And so it took about a year. It was a little longer than we had anticipated for the house to get built. And then we packed up the car. We had it, obviously our entire family. We had our 2 cats and a whole bunch of extra boxes that we couldn't fit into the moving van. And then we jumped in the car for our 16 to 18 hour road trip down to Florida. We did break it up into a couple days just because we figured that was way too much time for the girls to spend in the car. But eventually we made it down to Florida, signed all the papers, got the keys, moved in, and we haven't looked back. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm actually only about 20 minutes away from Disney, which for me being the big Disney fan that I am is a huge perk. I can head over there at any time when I think that there's a new machine, which is fantastic and I completely love it. Why don't I kind of go over a little bit about how I got into Pressed Pennies. My first memory of getting a pressed penny was way back when I was young. I was on a family vacation down, of all places, to Florida with my parents, my grandparents, and my aunt and uncle. And one day my parents were going to spend the day with my aunt and uncle, so the grandparents got to keep my sister and I busy. And what did they decide to do? They took us to Gatorland. And I remember all the gators and where they throw the chickens in there and they feed them. I'm sure hopefully you've all watched the Gatorland video. I'll put a link up there that you can check it out just in case. But while we were at Gatorland, I remember coming across this crazy looking machine with all sorts of gears inside of it. And there was a big sign on the top that said you could squash your penny. So I looked at my grandfather. He gave me some of his pocket change. I put it in there, pressed the penny, and I was blown away. I loved watching the gears work and how it crushed it and what it came out with this very inexpensive little souvenir that I had. So fast forward to the next day and my sister and I were back with my parents and we were over at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. And I remember almost completely forgetting that we were there to see shows and attractions and rides. And instead my mind was completely focused on all the penny machines. And I was continuing to ask my parents for their quarters and pennies so that I could press them. And to this day, I do not remember exactly how many I ended up with, but I remember there being quite a few. And I brought them back and I put them in a special box I had in my room, and every so often I would open it and look at them. Unfortunately, in Canada at that time, there were just no penny machines that I knew of, at least not in my town, that I had ever come across. So I kind of kept them in that box and kind of forgot about them. Years and years later, after we'd moved down to New Jersey, I had finished my senior year of high school, and I'm not sure if my parents felt bad for the whole transitioning me down for my senior year or my senior year being a blur, I'm not sure. But they decided, as a very nice gift, they actually sent me and a friend down to Walt Disney World for a vacation for a week. We stayed at the Coronado Springs Resort. We had a rental car, even though we didn't need it because we just used the bus system, and we went to all the different theme parks. And I remember before that I had kind of collected cash so that I could use that to pay for all our meals, all our food, any gifts we wanted. I just really didn't want to be putting all of that on a credit card. And every day at the end, when we came back to the hotel, we had pockets full of change and we would just kind of dump it out on the table that was in the hotel room. And I remember on one of the last days, I was kind of like, what the heck are we going to do with all this change? We're going to get stuck at the airport security going through the machine, with, I don't know how much there was probably at least $20 in change that we had. And all of a sudden it kind of dawned on me about that there were penny machines there. I remember kind of seeing them, but I hadn't really bothered with them on this trip. So I was like, this is probably a great way to do it. I can get some little souvenirs. I'll pick ones out for the rides that we did or the attractions we saw. And I'll either keep them for myself or maybe we'll just give them to people as little tokens from our vacation. So that last day we went back to the Magic Kingdom with a huge pocket full of change, and that was the entire day, was just going around to the different penny machines, pressing pennies. And on one of the machines I remember actually seeing a sticker, and on the sticker it was advertising pennycollector.com. I didn't know what it was, I didn't have any way to look it up at that point in the park, so I took out my camera and I took a picture of it. So after my flight home, I immediately jumped on the computer to check out this website. And I was just blown away by the number of pressed penny machines that were around the world, in the country, and also, more importantly, are in my state, in New Jersey. And I was so excited by this that I couldn't even wait until the following weekend to try and map out where I was going to go to get some more coins. Instead, I found a location that was only about 5 minutes away from where I was living. So I hopped in my car and I drove just a few minutes over to a Petro truck station that was in Bordentown, New Jersey. I parked the car, I headed inside. My heart was almost racing. This sounds crazy because I was only looking for a penny machine, but it was like I was so excited that there was a machine. I think for the longest time I just assumed that these machines were only in Disney, that it was a Disney thing, and I didn't realize that they were all over the place. So I headed into the truck stop. I started looking around, trying to find it, and eventually I did. It was just outside the bathrooms. I don't know why this is a place that they want to put pressed penny machines, but it seems to be the most common spot for some reason, other than gift shops at Disney. But anyways, I pressed the coins, I got back in my car, and I headed back home with my first set of New Jersey pressed pennies. But the urge to press pennies was not subsided for too long, and before I knew it, every weekend I was spending driving all over the state looking for pennies to press. I was at aquariums and parks like Six Flags. I was driving up and down the New Jersey Turnpike, going to all the different rest stops. And I remember on one of these trips down the Turnpike, all of a sudden it dawned on me about those pennies I had pressed years ago with my grandparents or my parents in Florida, and I wondered if I could find them. Unfortunately, I had gone up and down my parents' home and in their basement, I don't know how many times, and I just couldn't find them. So my assumption was they were either lost or tossed at some point during one of our moves. This is still something I regret to this day, and I can only imagine what some of those designs must be. They're probably highly sought after by collectors at this point, but what can you do? I guess I should have just taken better care of them back then, and you never know, maybe they'll pop up at some point. For my collection, I prefer to just collect coins from locations I've actually visited. As I said, that's just my preference. There's nothing wrong with trading or mailing away to get coins from other locations. I know plenty of other collectors that do that because they have very specific themes that they like to collect. So that's just an easy way for them to get them. And not everyone is able to travel all over the country. So I completely get that. I find it's just part of the adventure that I like is when I look at those individual coins, I can remember the vacations we took or the trips we took, and I have like this vivid memory of pretty much almost every machine I've ever used. I do use pennycollector.com a lot when I am planning out vacations with my family. So when we know that we're picking a certain place that we're going to go this year, I of course scour the website and I figure out where all the locations are in that city, and I gear where we're going to visit around those machines. My wife is a saint. She is not a pressed penny collector herself, but she knows how important it is to me and how much I love it, and so she indulges me in it and has never complained about it once, which I love her for that. So I think that about does it for this video. How did I do? Hopefully it gave you a little more insight into myself and into my pressed penny collection, how it all got started. I feel like it's been a long road so far, but I'm really just kind of getting started. So we'll see what happens from here. I've got some ideas for some other videos coming up, more about my collection, my organization, how I do all that. Maybe I'll even get into some behind the scenes of how I make the videos, how I maintain the website, the blog, all that good stuff. So we'll see where we kind of go from here. Lastly, if you see me in the park, please feel free to come up and say hi. We're almost always at the parks on weekends. My family, we actually do like to keep this little booklet around. It's filled with random pennies that we just like to give. We're not even looking to trade. If we see fellow collectors or just anyone that's looking at a machine, my daughters love to go up and help give some pennies to other people. So feel free to come up and say hi, and I'd love to chat with you if you ever see us in the park. If you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button below. It really does help the channel grow. I really love sharing the pressed penny hobby with everybody. Also be sure to ring that notification bell. That way you'll get notified of all new videos. I do release a new video every Thursday on a regular schedule. And then usually with any of those new release videos I talked about, if there's a new machine that pops up, I try to upload that whenever I have the video ready. That's usually done within a day or two at the most of the machine being released. Thanks again for sticking around and sharing in this unique hobby. I know there's a lot of collectors out there, wide range from just casual collectors to more hardcore collectors. So thank you. I really do want to watch this community grow. It seems like it's not something a lot of people talk about, but you go to the parks and there are lots and lots of people using the Pressed Penny machine, so I know there's lots of you out there that enjoy collecting. Don't be ashamed about it. Let everybody know that you love the Pressed Pennies. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. I do appreciate all of you for spending the time with me each week. It really does mean a lot to me. Leave comments. Love interacting with you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, keep on pressing.